To be a child again, it was the best of lives. I mean, you're free from your responsibilities, free from taxes, free from assignments due to the next day. I mean, who wouldn't want to be living that life again? I mean, some of you maybe want to go back to living that prime time, to living the life of carefreeness. And then there's others that want to live in them. As a child, I used to watch a lot of kids' movies. And by a lot, I mean a lot. Literally, all I would do is sit in front of the TV and watch movies non-stop. I was an addict to those movies. I was like an iPad kid, but with no iPad, with just a TV. My mom would get mad at me because I'd be ball hogging the TV. But like, you ever come up against these TikToks that are like, kid movies you've forgotten about? And then they proceed to show you Moana 2? That movie literally came out last year. But then it got me thinking, what are some kids' movies that I've forgotten about? And if you can't guess it by now, we're gonna go through some movies that me and you have forgotten about. Where the Wild Things is a movie based on a book called Where the Wild Things Are, and it was made in 1963 by Maurice Sendak. Maurice Sendak. Now the book follows this kid called Max, where he gets grounded by his mom for causing too many mischievous things, and gets sent to his room, and then proceeds to imagine himself going to a world full of monsters, and then gets back sent home. That's the book. Now the movie takes a whole different approach to this shit. First of all, Max is a psychopath. Put that shit through your head. This fucker, in the first second of the movie, tried to eat his dog. This guy had a fork and put his dog in a chokehold. Are we dead ass? Kid me saw that shit and thought it was normal. Like, who sees this and says this is normal? Anyways, this guy gets bullied by his sister's friends, yada yada yada. His mom stakes the Hulk, like, the usual. So this guy decides to run away after an argument with his mom, proceeds to find a random boat in the middle of nowhere and starts sailing it.
What the hell? Oh shit!
He finds himself also in a random island like in the picture book, but just this time, the monsters, they're all depressed motherfuckers with anxiety issues. They have mental issues. Each one of them have a different mental issue. That one's jealous, that one wants to make new friends, and that one's gay. Everybody's got their problem. By the way, this one is played by Tony Soprano.
You alright?
My leg's broken, the bone's coming through.
Let me see. I'll give you a fucking bone, you prick! Where's my fucking money?
Anyways, he then proceeds to tell them he's their king, like in the picture book. But just, he says also that he's gonna fix their problems of sadness. That's what the pill said before I took like 50 of them, but who cares, Anyways, Carol here has a problem. His shawty left him. So the king hears about Carol's situation and decides, you know what, I'm gonna help my boy out. And decides to wingman this guy. He then proceeds to lay up my boy, like we're talking some way too LeBron type layup. I mean, he ain't the king for no reason, bro. He then proceeds to bring friends over, which Carol wasn't swinging at all. Like he told himself one of these two motherfuckers ain't gay. And so he decides to get mad at the king and try to eat him, and then he rips his friend's arm off. At that moment, we were not talking to Carol, we were talking to Tony Soprano. So then Max says, you know what, I ain't dealing with this shit, and proceeds to take his boat and fuck out of there. Like, y'all are too depressed for me. And I'm not gonna lie to you, that was the right move to do. There is no fixing these ones. So then he goes back home to his loving mother and proceeds to eat food. But the monster was supposed to be a representation of one of his emotions that he was feeling at the time. Anger, sadness, loneliness, all those emotions, which is pretty big for a kid movie. I have my own theories that the kid actually did mushrooms before he actually left the island. So none of that was real. All the monsters were a part of his head. And so the moral of the story, kids, is don't do drugs. Speaking of mushrooms, we're gonna go from one movie that we thought he was doing mushrooms to another movie that we know they're doing mushrooms. Because none of this shit is real. And of course, we're talking about the space version of Jumanji, Zuthar and Space Adventures. This movie came out in 2009. I was 4 years old when that shit came out. God damn. This movie had some pretty up-and-coming actors at the time. They had Dax Shepard, Josh Hutcherson, the guy from FNAF, Kristen Stewart, who played the girl in Twilight, the one who got pregnant. That's all I remember from that movie. Anyways, the movie follows two brothers, Danny and Walter. Danny being the younger one and Walter being the older one, as they both look validation from their father, who recently divorced their mother. Anyways, they fight with each other to see who can have their father hang out with them, but the father doesn't want to hang out with either or both. Also, I just want to say, Danny has a PlayStation and is asking his dad to play Smash Bros. Buddy, we know you're not playing any Smash Bros on that TV. Walter has a girlfriend. Like, how do you have a girlfriend at the age of 10? Bro, I still don't have one. Also, they have a sister, but we'll get on to her later. Anyways, Danny finds a board game under the staircase and takes it up to his brother and asks him to play. His brother then says no, so he decides to play by himself. And while playing by himself, he spawns a meteor shower in their house. Get that shit through your head. A a whole meteor shower came through this guy's house, and then they end up in space. I couldn't explain to you how this happened. Then they go to their sister to show her what the hell's going on, which she blatantly ignores. And so while showing her what's going on, they chromed her out. Yeah, she got froze. For 5 turns, by the way. 5 turns. You know what that means? Imagine you're playing snakes and ladders and you're out of the game for 5 turns. You basically lost. Like, there's no point in keep playing. So they both decide they need to keep playing so they can unfreeze their sister as well as come back home to Earth. As they keep playing, they summon a fucking killer robot. A killer robot, and as well as he got his ankles broken by a fucking 10-year-old. Motherfucker broke his ankles at 10. As they keep playing, instead of summoning a killer robot, they summon heat-censoring killer lizards. But then, out of nowhere, a space astronaut shows up to save them. Are you following with this? You see how fucking crazy on shrooms this sounds? I don't know what they were smoking when they were writing this script, but it must have been something so diabolical. It made these fuckers read this script and say we needed more, cause this ain't over. It gets worse. Then the astronaut says we need to turn off all the heating in the house and burn a couch and throw it out to space, so they follow the couch. This whole movie doesn't make any sense. How are they breathing in space? How is there a fire couch flying around space? Like, none of this shit makes sense. Anyways, it's been 5 turns, so guess who's back? Little old girl. And now that she's back, she also turns on heating. And with heating back, the Zortrons are back. By the way, the astronaut, yeah, he's Walter from the future who wished his brother never existed so they could never finish the game. This movie doesn't make any fucking sense. As the Zortrons come back, they needed a plan because the Zoistron actually stole the board game, and the only way to get it is if there's a little person to fit through the holes. And guess who's that little person? Little old useless Danny. Oh, I also forgot to mention this. The older sister falls in love with the astronaut, which is Walter from the future. So if you think about it, just think about it a little bit. You know what that is? That's Country Home Alabama. Danny ends up getting the board games so they can finish the game. But the Zortrons are still a problem. So who do they have to deal with that? The fucking killer robot that was hiding in their basement that got his ankles broken. The robots then ends up chasing the Zortrons away. Walter from the future ends up reuniting with his little brother, and they end up fusing together, and Danny ends up winning the board game. And so they end up back home, and all they say is,
We never speak of this, okay? Never happened.
Never happened.
you just went to space, fought a killer robot, some heat-sensing aliens, met your future self, and all you have to say is, we don't utter another word of this? Absolute cinema. This is one of the greatest movies of all time. 10 out of 10. Anyways, I hope this jogged your memory of some forgotten movies, and see ya.